What's up guys, welcome back. In this video I'll show you exactly how I color grade Sony FX3 S-Log3 footage in Adobe Premiere Pro in under 5 minutes. This is the same workflow I use on music videos and commercial projects, and the goal is to achieve clean skin tones, rich colors and cinematic look without using LUTs. Let's get into it. The first thing I do is to create an adjustment layer. I always color grade on adjustment layers because it keeps my workflow non-destructive and makes everything easier to organize. I open the Lumetri color panel and start with basic correction. Since this footage was shot on Sony S-Log3, the first objective is to convert it from the flat log image into a normal Rec 709 image. I'll increase the contrast, recover the highlights, deepen the shadows and blacks, make slight adjustment to the white and fine-tune the exposure until the image feels balanced. At this stage, I'm not trying to create a cinematic look yet. I'm simply building a solid foundation. Once I'm happy with that, I'll rename this Lumetric effect Rec 709. I like separating every stage of my color grade so I can always come back and tweak one section without affecting the others. Next, I create another Lumetric effect and name it White Balance and Curves. Using the White Balance eyedropper, I click on something that should naturally be white. In this shot, it's her white inner shirt. This quickly gives me a more accurate color balance. After that, I move to the RGB curves and then create a gentle S-curve to add contrast and depth. It's a subtle adjustment, but it makes a huge difference. Now it's time to work on one of the most important parts of any color grade, which is the skin tones. I create another Lumetric effect called skin tone. Here I use the hue versus hue and the hue versus saturation to fine-tune the skin color. I also turn on my Lumetric scopes, specifically the vector scope YUV, because I never rely only on my eyes. The vector scope helps me ensure the skin tone sits along the proper skin tone line, giving me natural looking results. Once the skin looks healthy and accurate, I move on to enhancing the colors in the scene. I create another Lumetric effect and focus on the grass and the outfits. Since the grass is green and the outfit is pink, they naturally add visual interest to the frame. Using the hue versus hue, I isolate those colors and increase the saturation slightly. The key here is to restrain. You want the colors to stand out without looking artificial. Now comes my favorite part of the process. I create one final Lumetric effect and name it color grading. This is where the cinematic look really comes together. Using the HSL secondary, I select the subject skin with the color picker. I switch to the color gray view so I can clearly see my selection, refining it until only the skin is isolated. Once the selection looks clean, I invert it. Now, instead of affecting the skin, I'm affecting everything else in the frame. This allows me to cool down the background while keeping the skin tones warm. That warm subject, cool background contrast creates depth that naturally draws the viewer's attention to the subject. From here, I fine-tune the temperature, shadow, midtone and highlight until the image feels balanced and cinematic. Finally, I add a little denoise and blur within the HSL secondary controls to smooth out the selection and help the color blend naturally into the image. And that's it. In few minutes, we've taken flat Sony S-Log3 footage and transformed it into a clean cinematic image using nothing but Adobe Premiere Pro. If you found this tutorial helpful, don't forget to like the video, subscribe for more filmmaking and color grading tutorials, and let me know in the comments what you'd like to see next. I'll see you in the next one. You're welcome.
To the King of Kings, the Rose of Sharon.